It is my pleasure to welcome our first speaker today, Navaid Baqai, Global Textile Director of Cotton Council International of United States of America, who will give us a look at the impact of U.S. cotton and its technical and financial performance.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Navaid Baqai. I'm a Global Textile Director for Cotton Council International. Cotton Council International basically promotes U.S. cotton globally, and I've been with them for about 3 years. So I'll make a presentation about some of the results that we have collected in the last 2 years. So I'll start with a quote from a leader: "The cooking is an art, but all art requires knowing something about the techniques and the materials." Basically, if you look at the textile manufacturing pipeline, it's all very artistic. So you need to know the material, you need to know the techniques. Now, in terms of the supply chain denominators, some of the common themes that you'll find in the from fiber all the way to the garment: they want consistency, they want high quality, they want no waste, efficient machine and labor productivity, quick delivery, and above all, low cost. Now, what do manufacturers want? So the spinners, they want clean cotton with the known technical parameters so they can have the consistency in their operations. The fabric manufacturers, they want the cotton yarns with the quality parameters that can give them maximum productivity. The dyeing and finishers, they want to have the good quality gray good so that they can match the colors for the first time, so they can avoid any repetition, additions, and stuff like that. It can conserve the energy costs. The garment makers, they want to make sure that they have good quality fabric so they can have the increased yield, which means low cutting table waste and low garment failures and the repairs. So we see that the textile supply chain is mostly horizontal. So from yarn making to fabric making to processing to garment. So any of those bumps can create the shipping delays. So in the end, it's the ready-made garment manufacturers who carry most of the blame or the burden about the shipping delays. Now, what do brands and retailers want? Not only they want to eliminate all those previously mentioned factors, but because of the paradigm shift, they want to have first-time manufacturing, quick deliveries, so they can have less inventory and everything like that. Now, is it possible to satisfy these demands? We think yes. So how? By choosing the right raw material from the start and then following the correct processing parameters at every process in the supply chain. So over the last 2 years, CCI sponsored multiple studies, which we did in multiple countries and multiple mills, that I will share with you what we found. Some of the background about those, we did it in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Vietnam, and they were done by independent consultants. And it was specifically asked to be done by independent consultants, so we have the objectivity, so there is no bias. And we looked at the knit product, and we compared the US cotton to the other non-US cottons, and we learned many lessons that I'll share with you. So what are the technical manufacturing steps that we made sure that every step stays the same? We asked cotton with the similar properties. We set all the process data and machine settings to be the same so that there is no influence of the processing parameters. We made carded and comb yarns. We made single jersey fabric. And we tested it in gauge and dyed form. Now, we also added the backward projection analysis where we went from fabric back to the fiber. And I'll share some of that findings as well. And of course, we did the financial assessment for each of those steps as well. Now, in 2017, we did the study in Bangladesh where we compared US cotton with Indian cotton, CIS cotton, and we were making the 30 singles carded ring spun yarn, single jersey fabric that I mentioned. In Pakistan, the same year, we studied the US cotton with the Indian cotton and the blend of Australian, CIS, and Pakistani cotton. There we made the 20 singles and 26 singles comb yarn. In 2018, in Bangladesh, we repeated the same study but in a different mill, where we compared the US cotton to the Brazilian and West African cotton. And the reason for that was that, when I shared the results from the 2017 study, so the feedback that we got from the industry, they said that, you want to compare it to West African cotton and Brazilian cotton. So that's what we did. And similarly in Vietnam, we again compared US cotton to the Brazilian and West African cotton, but here they were using the blending of the two fibers. So we compared that. Now when we look at the fiber analysis, in 2017 in Bangladesh, the bales were selected by the mill. And these are some of the findings. The CIS cotton had 40% lower short fiber content. US cotton had 30% more nebs. And this is one of the things that we hear from the industry, that US cotton has more nebs. And we recognize that. And that is because the way that it is being harvested and ginned. So we create those nebs. But we're not concerned about that, because it's mostly mechanical nebs, and will be easier to remove if you process them correctly. In 2017 Pakistan study, the bales were carefully selected by the consultant. And that's an important point that I want to mention, because I'm going to come back to that later on. And here you can see that the fiber properties, the difference is almost negligible, if you see the yellow ones. But in the APHIS analysis, the nebs, again, as I said, in the US cotton was about 40% higher than the Indian cotton. In 2018 Bangladesh study, again, the bales were selected by the mill, and you can see some of the variation in terms of the uniformity index. The short fiber index was lower for the West African. Now, here you can see that in the fiber processing, what we were looking at, for all the fibers that we were comparing to, from carding all the way to the winding, what are the fiber losses in each manufacturing stage? So we were measuring all of that. And also we found that the US cotton yarn had about 50% fewer machine stops during this study. In Pakistan study, we were looking at more of the traditional things like neb removal efficiency, short fiber content removal, cleaning efficiency, and all that. And in each of those categories, we see that the US cotton did much better. And again, if I come back to that point, that the bales were selected carefully by the consultant. Again, in Pakistan study, that we found is that when you do that, then you have 2 to 5% efficiency gain possible in terms of the OPS. 8 to 20% loaded energy saving is possible, which I'll tell you why. And 9% savings in the maintenance, and that's all attributed to processing propensity. And that's something that I'll describe a little bit later, what that means. In Bangladesh study in 2018, similar to 2017, we found that the US cotton had 14.5% fiber loss, which was a little bit higher than the West African cotton. So the West African cotton had a little bit better yield. But the Brazilian cotton was not able to run in the spinning frame. Up to the spinning frame, it was working fine. But at the spinning frame, it would not run. And the consultant had to reduce this machine speed by about 1,000 RPM, and even use the lower, lighter traveler. But even then, it would not run. So, but he has to make it run by lowering the speed and all that kind of things. In 2018 Vietnam, the 30 single carded that was being made with the blending of US and Brazilian cotton, and 40 single combed was made with the US and West African cotton, but the mill was having the problem of the bar A. So what the consultant did is said that, okay, I'll work with you, and we'll increase the percentage of US fiber, and we'll see how the results are in terms of the user percentile. And the next slide, in terms of the 40 comb, they were using 70% US cotton and 30% Brazilian cotton. But when you see that gradually, when you're increasing the percentage of US cotton, the user percentile is getting lower, which means the quality of the yarn is getting better. Similarly, in the carded, they were using 50% US and 50% West African cotton, And as you increase, you again see that the U.S. percentile is going low. So that shows that by increasing the U.S. cotton, your yarn parameters get much better. All right, so processing propensity. This is something is describing the ease of processing of a fiber. And the parameters that are key to that is fiber to fiber and fiber to metal friction, the fiber resilience, and the strand cohesion. And this has a direct correlation to the energy savings and the maintenance costs. And based on our findings, the U.S. cotton shows the best processing propensity. When we look at the yarn analysis, in the Pakistan study, where, as I said, that the base was selected carefully, we see that the U.S. cotton shows better IPI, higher CSP, and everything. When we look at the knitting analysis in the Bangladesh study, again, we see that the U.S. cotton is performing much better. We see higher efficiency and we see lower fiber losses. In Pakistan study, the knitting analysis, we're looking at the functional properties. And again, the U.S. fabric showed, in terms of the abrasion resistance, bursting strength, dimension stability, and pilling propensity, in each of these categories, the U.S. cotton did better. Now, we talked about the backward projection analysis. So what the consultant said, that I'm measuring fiber properties, yarn properties, fabric properties, and each of those processing is going to have some sort of an impact on the fiber properties. So he said, okay, I'm going to come back from the finished side. So finished fabric, he takes the yarn out, and he tested it, and then he unravels it, makes it fiber, and tests it on APHIS, and he compares it from the beginning and see which fabric retains the integrity of those properties. So based on his analysis, he finds that the U.S. cotton has, in terms of the fiber, better fiber integrity, in terms of the yarn, better abrasion resistance, in terms of the fabric, better functional properties. So again, U.S. cotton performed the best. Now in 2018, the picture speaks 1,000 words. You can see that the picture was taken exactly the same spot of 55th minute, because the machine was taking about an hour to complete the roll. So at each stage of the 55th minute with the USA, Brazil, and West Africa, you see there is almost no fiber loss with the US. And with Brazil and West Africa, you can see significant fiber losses. And that's what we see, that the machine efficiency for the US and Brazil was almost the same. The West African was very, very low. And process losses, you can see, with the US is almost negligible. In terms of the dyeing finish analysis, in 2017, we found that all US fabrics passed, and all the other ones was rejected because of the NABS, dead cotton, and high level of contamination. And the US cotton had lowest fiber losses, less than 1% in 2017. In 2018, similar results in the dyeing and finishing. And again, the fiber losses was the lowest with the US cotton. In terms of the cut and sew analysis, again, we see that the cutting waste, the garment rejection rate, and total rejection after the recovery, again, US cotton does much better. In 2018, similar results. Again, US cotton did much better in terms of the cutting waste, the garment rejection, and total rejection. And then, as I said, 2018, we were comparing it with the Brazilian cotton and West African cotton. Now, when we look at the financial analysis, so what we are looking at in 2017 and 2018 in Bangladesh, we look at the mill door price. So what is the incoming price? And then we're looking at the fiber losses in each of these parameters from spinning, knitting, dyeing, finishing, cutting, and garment. And we're adding back the cost of the fiber losses back into the base price. And when you look at that, in 2017, the US had the lowest total cost versus the others. Similarly, in 2018, you have the lowest total cost of the US cotton. So both in 2017 and 2018, the total cost of the US was much better. So again, we are showing that you have to look at the big picture. So we look, when we go into from fiber all the way to the garment, it's all value addition. So through every stage of the process after spinning, the quality of the US gains in value. So we see in 2017 about 38 cents per pound advantage over the Indian and CIS cotton, and 2018, 18 cents per pound advantage over Brazilian, 64 cents per pound advantage over West African. It's huge. In Vietnam study, financially what we were looking at is how much cotton that you need to make set number of garments, and what are the processing savings. So what we found is that the US cotton, you need about 950 bales to make 1 million t-shirts. So for the same 1 million t-shirts, if you're using the Brazilian cotton, you need about 22 more bales, about 10,000 more pounds. With West African cotton, you need about 44 more bales. That's 21,000 pounds, so that's all cost added to it. And also when you do the optimization, then you have the possibility to have the saving in comb oils 8 to 13%, which correlates to about a $1 million savings for a mill that uses 100,000 bales. So what are the lessons that we learned? We learned that the cottons of different origins are not created equal, even when they have the identical HVI and APHIS data. And that's because of the processing propensity. So when you have different processing propensities, it can lead to some of the problems like barre, fiber damage, pilling, and all those kind of things. So 80% of these problems are the results of the choice of inappropriate cotton. So again, when I mentioned in the beginning, is that the selection of the fiber is very important. Second thing, we know that all cottons, they have NEPs, short fiber content, and trash, but the key is that which one gives you the better cleaning efficiency, better NEP removal efficiency, and better fiber damage, minimum fiber damage. And we learned that with proper base selection, US cotton performed best in all of those factors. The third lesson we learned that each spinning system is unique because you're catering to different customers, different product types, you have different types of machines, you have different types of ages of the machines, so every system is unique. So you need to know the cotton that fits with your unique system. And the US cotton provides that opportunity because 100% of the US cotton is tested. So when we look at the 2017-18 cotton crop, and when we look at the different fiber properties, then about 11 million bales you can select to make a coarse to medium count, that is 16s to 32s, 8 million bales to make the medium to fine count. So US cotton gives you that opportunity to select the bales to your system. Point 4 is that most of the problems that you face is probably caused by the inappropriate cotton selection. And with the poor fiber blending, then you can create these problems like higher thick and thin places, the dye variability, the garment rejection rates, bad reputation, and all of these affects the bottom line cost. Now, of course, I'm talking about the US cotton. So you might be saying that, okay, all of these things that I'm talking about may be biased. So don't take my word for it. I'll share some of the mill stories. So mill 1, they replicated our study. And they found the similar results. And at that time, they were using about 30,000 metric ton of US cotton. And after the internal replication and some of our technical advice that we provided, they went up to about 8,000 metric ton of US cotton, which is 162% increase of US cotton. And this year, they're going even higher. Similarly, the mill 2, which did not know about the CCI, they came and attended one of these technical seminars, and they were using 3,000 metric ton of US cotton, not as a major raw material, but they also did their internal testing, and then they went up to 5,000 metric ton, which is 67% increase. And again, this year, they have gone to, I think, 8,000 metric ton. Now, the mill 1, they also agreed to share some of their findings. So they were comparing the US cotton with the Indian cotton, making 20 singles carded and 40 singles combed. And what they found, that they reduce breakages, improve CLSP, single yarn strength and elongation, 68% lower IPI, less rubber card cleaning, 9% increase in card wire, reduce energy savings. So in conclusion, the US cotton provides the opportunity to buy the cotton that you desire for your operations and products. The simple message is, don't think that by buying what seems to be a cheaper cotton, you are saving costs. You are not. So in the end, buying cotton on price can be a very expensive mistake. So in the studies we found, with using US cotton, you have lower fiber losses, improved operating performance, higher quality, which means considerable financial advantages. Now, this year, we are continuing to do more studies in Turkey, Indonesia, and India. We were looking at the mixing of different cottons with different blend ratios and what is the implications of that in terms of the selection of bales. And the previous studies we did in the knit, this year we're also doing the same thing, but in the woven fabric. And we're also looking at the dyeing parameters of the US cotton. And the results will be shared hopefully later part of this year. So I'll end with this quote from an Irish poet. The only thing to do with good advice is to pass it on. It is never of any use to oneself, which is why we are sharing all this information that we learn from these things. And hopefully this will be useful for you. And with that, I thank you very much. And this is why the cotton US is the cotton that the world trusts. Thank you. And if there are any questions.
Good morning, Mr. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
My name is Wagner, and I was wondering, the quote you used at the beginning of your presentation was that cooking is an art. And you have to know the ingredients to cook well, deliciously. So my point is, how's about if you don't know how to mix the ingredients? Second, how to convince the world that analyzing, getting tested, the fiber is important, consequently having more control and then profitability. How do you approach such question?
Well, so if you, as you said, if you know the ingredients, or if you have the ingredients but you don't know how to use it, of course you're going to go to somebody that knows, that can help you, that can give you some ideas. But then again, based on your taste, based on your culture and everything, you can tweak it. And you can find out which one works the best in terms of, the best recipe. So there is no one recipe that's going to fit everybody. Everybody has his own taste, which means in the spinning, you may be making 30 singles, but 30 singles might be for one kind of product, and that 30 singles could be on a different kind of product, and the parameters that you need may be different. So you're making the 30 singles, but the recipe is going to be different because your output or the end use is different. And you had a second question?
Because look, we're talking to so many mills in the world. We found out that most of them, they don't care about testing. Oh, test 10%, 5%, that's okay. We don't care. And as by your presentation, we understand that that's important.
Very important.
How can you approach such a situation and tell them, no, please, that's important to be tested?
You can share my results with them. That shows that if you don't select it correctly, you don't measure it, then you're basically taking a big risk. And that risk can be avoided if you, invest a little bit in the testing, so that way you know exactly what you are dealing with, so that you can set up your machines correctly, all the parameters can be done correctly, so that you don't have to fight the battle later on.
Are there more questions?
And have you used other products that might show, when you have more complexity, that you have even higher ratios of differentiation?
Well, this year we are doing it for the wovens. Most of the US cotton was used in the knit products. So when we started doing this kind of studies, we said, okay, let's start with the knit product. And then when we started sharing this thing, some of the people that I know here, they said, okay, why don't you do it in the wovens?
Yeah.
So this year we're doing it in the wovens and see how the results are.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.